but the point is that if we can go ahead and make sure that it's clear in regards to how we're communicating and what we have to offer to begin with, it'll help out our families.
Also, if we had in this list, because there are Spanish high set options, and so having a list of the organizations that provide the Spanish high set, the English high set, both programs, I think is important. And then for the students that don't, I think a matrix, a consistent matrix is helpful. And ultimately, just on my interactions with, representatives from different advocacy organizations for immigrant students, we are required to enroll 18 to 19-year-olds in our high school campus. And it is, we can provide options, but if they want to enroll in our high school, we are required to enroll them. So just making sure that we don't, break any of those laws in creating this matrix of services.
Because they do still have that option. Like if the school gives them really good information about you can do these things and the student says, oh, I want to go here, then you have to enroll them here. And so then how do you plan for those students, you know? There's some kind of, Jerome, you may know more about this too. Isn't there some kind of equivalency option that LCTCS offers through course credit earned? I think I'm right. We need to ask them. Yeah, we've been having regular meetings with the Louisiana Workforce Commission on that because they'll own deciding what comprises those bundles. And so they've got several of them drafted now, and they're vetting those with the different like industry sectors that need to be the ones to say, yes, this is valuable in our industry or in our industry sector. So we're working to get at least a few of them ready ahead of August Bessie to be able, that's kind of our, we gauge lots of time in Bessie meetings. But we have several of them we're hoping to have ready by August Bessie, and then several hoping to have done by the end of September. So, and we'll continue to add to that list as we go along, but it's, I'm trying to remember how many were on there last time, maybe 6 or 7 different ones have been drafted now, and they're just going through all the different vetting from the different agencies that need to look at those. Any other thoughts on this? So I have that we need guidance on assessment tools to help assess where students are when they first come in, when we have these older entry ELs, a decision-making tool for schools to help them understand the different options, like a matrix, a decision-making matrix to help schools, help students understand their options, including a list of adult ed programs available, including ones that offer HiSET in Spanish. We need guidance that schools can give families. And we need to verify consistency in adult ed programs for what parts of what programs are available where. And are they always available there, or does that change sometimes? We need to help schools understand what those different options are. So what that would look like to stay enrolled in this school right here and be prepared to address the needs of the student who has lots of needs, or what that would look like to enroll here but attend at an adult ed VOTEC program, or what that would look like for that student to go enroll at that adult ed program. I was in a meeting earlier today with some of the juvenile judges, and they expressed interest in this idea too of staying enrolled in the K-12 but attending at the adult ed or the VOTEC, because for them, they want to be able to track attendance and make sure that the students are attending those programs too. And so it sounds like there's some development we need on that middle option. What does that look like to be enrolled here and attend there? And then solve for the state ID needed for HiSET. I don't know if we can solve for, but at least look into whether we can solve for the state ID needed for HiSET testing. Anything that I missed? And then, oh yeah, I wrote that in the guidance for how HiSET works with accountability. Mm-hmm.
Judges saying that they preferred that the kids were enrolled in school while they were attending, like that was their preference. I would just want to bring up that point that we're saying right now is that the attendance is the issue because they're working during the day. So that would be something that we have seen over and over again, that our students, they want to be there, but they also want to work as well. And so it's very difficult. So those alternatives that allow them to be either virtual or attend after school are really why having an adult education site is sometimes the best option for the students. I just kind of want to put that out there since you had said that, like, if they've already not choosing our K-12, it's because of that reason. So trying to work around that is really where the brainstorm probably needs to be.
Where does the apprenticeship and the internship options play into this conversation? So obviously a lot of these kids are planning on going to work, right, and so forth. Isn't there a way where we could streamline that into an apprenticeship or an internship?
Mm-hmm. And I think just thinking about the different ways that a student might go, if you think about somebody who comes in and they're really far behind, there are lots of gaps. And so you put them in some courses to try to, academically catch them up to where they need to be. And then you put them into some courses to let them start getting a skill that will get them a great job. Because maybe you do want to go to college after high school, but you're going to have to work to put yourself through college. You want to be able to get, a better job to be able to support yourself through college than if you didn't have the skill. So, how can we like catch you up academically and prepare you to be able to work and support yourself? And then once you get to that point, what can we merge those at all? So can you be in, especially with the bigger focus on paid internships now, and we've had a lot of support from Workforce Commission and Economic Development and our chambers of commerce. A lot of folks I think are hearing us say, okay, we need paid internships, tell us how to make this happen. Like the schools want it, we'll help facilitate some partnerships. But we need the businesses to step up. And a lot of them are saying, sure, okay, we'll step up. How do we do this? Let's think through it, which I think is really encouraging, because that's a good, marriage of the two, I think, is see where can a student get some academic or some school training and get paid for it at the same time. And then after that, can you work with the skill that you have, keep improving your skill or your craft, and then continue this academic training too, with a deliberate handoff from, okay, you finished high school, whatever that exit path from high school for you looked like. You finished high school, now here are programs available in your area for advanced education through adult ed, whether you're working on an associate's degree or whatever, just advanced skills in your trade. I think helping kids see high school not as the end, but a benchmark and a continuum of learning. And I feel like our ability to help them see what that looks like is contingent on our understanding what that looks like. What are the different options and how does that whole thing work? So it sounds like, in my head, that's how it could work, should work. But it's just, I think, getting all of us to say, yeah, this is what that looks like. Here's where you're missing something. Here's something to figure out. Here's a brainstorm needed.
There's a card somewhere that the students have to get that they cannot get if they're not a citizen.
TWIC card.
Yeah, and that makes it very, very difficult for our students to engage in internships and apprenticeships. And our business community, they're like, whatever we can do to help, let us know, but their hands are tied as well because they have to have that.
We've found actually some industry partners have found some jobs available on their site that they can let students have for internships without the TWIC card, and they've been able to differentiate those spaces on their site into ones that need and ones that don't need TWIC. So that's something we're exploring, that conversation, and try to connect people who are figuring it out with people who haven't quite figured it out yet, so they can figure it out together. But yeah, that's something that's been identified that we're working through with others who are trying to figure it out too.
Actually, a question, I've heard several of you mention students that come and enroll in the school system, but in some cases never come to the campus or serve through another party or through adult ed at LCTCS. When you have those cases, who's funding that work? Is that an agreement and a payment between the school system and whoever is educating that student? Or is that student considered enrolled in higher ed, and through the higher ed funding formula, that pays for the education of the student through the LCTCS adult ed program? How does the funding work? And is that student considered duly enrolled?
I think, and so anybody else feel free to jump in on this too. I think the one where the student goes and enroll, like they exit K-12 or they don't enroll in K-12 and they go enroll in adult ed, that one we know how that works. Like that's been there. But the one where they're enrolled here and they attend there, it sounds like there's some kind of, that K-12 is, contributing toward that student's adult ed work. But if anybody else has other perspectives on that, definitely feel free to jump in.
So yes, if a student comes directly to us, not from a school system, then they go automatically to work with you under LCTCS. And then the federal funding that comes from the state for LCTCS, that's the crumb that we get to serve that.
Yep.
The agreement we have with the Charter Management Organization and being LDOE approved, LDOE monitored, it's a program, there is a pass-through that comes from the charter school. The student remains on their roll. We provide academic gains. We provide attendance. We have the same attendance requirements, so if the student is not there 10, 15 days, whatever consecutive, we have to report that to the CMO and have to note that. We have to drop students, we can re-enroll them. But there is a pass-through for educational services.
Other thoughts on this one?
I just have one question. Someone else may be thinking about this or I'm thinking of I guess the logistics of a student. I'm thinking of, Ms. Ford speaking about students come in with lots of barriers to learning. They take the test, they can't pass the test, they're 18 years old. We're talking about these bundles, but these bundles are not, they're not gonna be, applicable to this student that we're talking about, like overage, it would be a student who came a little bit sooner because we're gonna have to prep them with coursework. And so when they're 18 and they're coming and they don't have any of that coursework that they need, the preliminary coursework, that's where the time is critical. So I don't know how applicable the bundle conversation is for that particular student because there is no time. So we would have to do something that would be in addition to the bundle, right? Something that would be specific for that particular student. So that's just something that's kind of going around in my mind right now because those bundle situations that give us extra points, extra credit, really take us getting a student, intercepting a student pretty early, and a student who has some baseline skills, working with them throughout a high school. But this student who's coming later, I think is where our, we talked about adult ed, and getting them into the workforce, but our traditional, the way we're set up right now, it's very difficult to get them into the workforce right now in any apprenticeship or internship. If we're talking about the student who's coming to us 18, can't pass the high set test, can't get into high set yet, I think that's really where like that critical need is. And we have many of those students in Jefferson Parish.
One thing I'm really interested to see too, one of the ways that you can make an internship work is with the job a student already has. And I'm really interested to see how schools build this up and out because you can take a regular after-school student job, weekend student job that a student has, and partner that with the classroom time that's needed, and then that student job can count for accountability points, work-based learning, and so if you think about the type of job that student is going to get anyway, and how you can adapt that to meet this, which really would just give them support in how to be a good employee, how to work with your coworkers, how to interact with your boss, which would help them be more successful at that job anyway. I think there's a lot of potential there.
And we're talking about that in addition to all the other coursework, right, that they have to, so eventually they'll have to complete all their coursework. And then somewhere in there, the job that they're already doing will count towards an internship. We're talking about like, we have a year to come up with a plan for a kid who's come in here, who's not going to graduate on time, who's decided to enroll in our high school, who's likely not speaking our language, is not a citizen. All these things, how do we I think the brainstorming is, what does that year look like for us? And I do think the adult ed is a really good option but I don't know how applicable internships or apprenticeships are for that particular student because of the prerequisites that are gonna be needed. Even if they are working a job at the time and we count it as an internship, it doesn't allow us to really get that child out of high school in a traditional way in such a short amount of time. If that makes sense. I don't know if that's making sense. To be realistic about what is that workforce for our students. For that particular student, the workforce is construction work, and it's all within their own communities, right? That's where they're only able to have, they can't go to anywhere else, any other industry. It's only the manual labor, which again, many of them are doing it under the table because they don't have the paperwork to do it. So I mean, just a thought, right? That we can't really think about that workforce as an internship because that just doesn't count, does it?
That's fair. Thank y'all so much for always engaging on these conversations. I feel like we get so many different, we throw a very big idea out there, and we get lots of good details from it. So thank y'all so much. If you think of anything else, feel free to come back to it. But we'll go to our next item. So consideration of a discussion regarding task force recommendations to Bessie. And again, we have another meeting after this scheduled for August 30th, 20th, where we'll, 30th, okay, where we'll look at that report draft and let you all have eyes on that. But we wanted to give you another opportunity just to give some input into the content and to review the headings, the different lists of recommendations that we put together. So, and we'll break up into small groups to do this, but could I get a motion in a second to start this discussion? Okay, thank you. So, somewhere we have groups. Okay, and we can adjust these. This is just a suggested starting point for the group. But I think Chelsea, do you want to give us some directions for how to, or Allie, do you want to give us? Okay, yeah. Okay, good. Alexandra has a plan.
Good morning, everyone. So as Ashley said, we have some suggested groups. So I would ask that everyone that is in group 1, if they would meet by this pillar right behind me. If you are in a group 2, the pillar that is towards my right. If you are in group 3, in the back where the camera is, where I'm pointing to my right now. And then if you are in group 4, directly in front of me where the public comment tent is. Thank you. So in these groups, as Ashley said, we've provided some recommendations. So the idea is that in your group, you would go through the recommendations together.
They're right there.
Okay, so,
Group 3, I think you're in my group, right here.
yes.
we can go ahead and get started, bring us back together. I wanted to give each group just a few minutes to share your conversation, your discussion. Of course, we'll take all of the chart papers, and I guess I'll give you this paper of mine because that's where I wrote my notes down. And we'll take all of the chart papers and incorporate those notes and that feedback. But would each group mind just giving us a gist of your discussion, anything that you want to share or say? If you want to read us your paper or just give us some high points, either way is good. Anybody want to go first? B, 2, 3. We're looking at all of it, I guess, right? Like English proficiency and then performance on the core content areas. That was your one. Mhm. Any comments on that synopsis? It would be better than the alternative. Good, thank you. So there's an event coming up in a couple months, October or September, that's for counselors. And I'm trying to think of the thing they call it. It's a fun name. It's like the counselor conference. I don't, it's something more exciting than conference, but there's like LDOE puts it on for the counselors, and I think there are a couple different ones. And so some of this, I think we probably need to connect with our Angie Jordan on our team leads up that work, and we probably just need to connect with her and see what opportunities are there for counselors, because that's something that we've talked with her about just on the accountability conversation is where do counselors need to understand a little bit better how to, let me, it seems, it feels really loud today. Where they need to maybe need to understand a little bit better what the pathways are in turn, you know, there's lots of different things like how to counsel a student, what the IGP should be besides a box that you check, you know, some of that. And I think we need this there too with them. So I'm gonna see if we can, I'll find out if they have any content planned for that that's EL specific right now. And then I'll see if there's opportunity to get some of that in for this next round that they're doing, and then look at how to do that better for next time, plan it, you know. Because I don't know, again, I think it's in September maybe, so I don't know how far along they are in the content development process, but I'll see if we can get some in right now, and then, you know, see moving forward what they can do. Because that seems like it needs to be its own track or session or, you know, something, for sure. I'll connect you with Angie too. Counselor Institute, maybe. I don't know. I'm so sorry. Anything else on that first group? Cool. All right, group 2.
Teachers invested in that population.
That definitely happened to me on a regular basis. I would be in the middle of teaching math and somebody would come in and say, I'm gonna watch your kids. Go talk to somebody in the front office for a second. And I'd grab my little dictionary and head down the hall, you know. Y'all are having to compensate for summer slide and then do, just like everybody else is. Anything else from group 2? Do y'all want me to share group 3? Okay, I wrote down notes on 2 different pages, which is probably not good, but, so we had that we wanted to incorporate some Amira results where we could, the study. I know we had talked about that at one point too, having the outcomes from some systems who've used it successfully, somewhere on the website so that others can use. So I wrote that down, and then continuing to see where we can pilot that, for upper grades or similar products for upper grades. Interested in that too. We talked about the need to do another look between LCTCS and LDOE for alignment on the standards that LCTCS is using, just to see where that needs to be updated now. Then adding ELs to workforce discussion. So we're having lots of conversations right now about building school and industry partnerships to accelerate our work with career acceleration. but adding English learners to that discussion too. And I wrote down a couple of things. For one, whenever you're talking with a business about providing internship or apprenticeship opportunities, have the conversation with them. Here are the different English proficiency levels. What proficiency level is required? Like, can you accommodate for this placement? So then maybe they could say, oh, for these roles, I can take a student with a 3 proficiency. For this role, I need a student with a 4 proficiency. And so then when your counselors are looking through internship options that are there for students that also have, oh, here's one that might be a good fit based on this student's English proficiency, but then also that could be some motivation for the students to do better on proficiency tests, knowing that if they can get to this proficiency level, it might make some additional internship opportunities available to them. So we thought that might be a good thing to add to workforce discussions, helping them understand like some of what that proficiency level looks like, and then trying to help them identify what proficiency levels they would need for different spots that they might open up. And then ways to, okay, the next thing I wrote down was something in the course choice guide and about looking at online vendors. So where can students take some courses that they need to be able to catch up on some academic content that they've missed to be able to improve their English proficiency? Is there a way that they could do that online, especially for some schools that maybe are small or rural or low incidence, but to be able to let them make that available to students too? So kind of along the lines of what y'all talked about. Ways to address the barriers like ID, transportation, proficiency, along with how to navigate students to that next step. So whenever, to help a counselor out, I guess, whenever they see a student with a barrier, some guidance to help that counselor say, oh, you don't have an ID and you want this, internship. Here are your steps toward getting that ID. Like, here's what you need to do. Oh, you don't have transportation. Here's what's available now. Here's some steps we can work toward to making transportation available. So just some almost think through problem solving guidance whenever it comes to those different barriers that students are facing in accessing some of these different opportunities. One thing we wrote down was requiring EL specific components in the IGP process. So if a student, instead of, we've talked some about requiring an individual English learner plan for every student, but I know that can be really cumbersome for districts, especially who have lots of incidents. So could we just require an English learner step for IGPs? That might also get schools to think about, well, here's a student for whom proficiency is an issue. How are we going to address that over the next couple of years instead of just what classes are we going to, or here's what, how can we help support their, workforce goals with this or that opportunity? So we talked about including that too, and some English learner specific components in the IGP process. We talked about needing some guidance for how to make YCP in other areas of the state. So how can we scale up and out that enroll in K-12 attend over here option so that schools understand, oh, here's what that might look like, and here are some things we would need to think through to get that started. And then including, I thought it was neat how y'all are providing sped services there, or at least making sure either it's getting provided here or we're transporting the kid over here where they need to receive that service. And so think through all the things that a school would need to think about whenever they're looking at how to set up something like that. Did I miss anything? Okay. Anything else?
The thought when you talk about proficiency, English proficiency to try to get into apprenticeship programs. Right now, when we think proficiency assessment, we think of the ELPT, and we have to understand that the ELPT assesses English proficiency in the function for academic success. And so in thinking about proficiency of language itself, to attain or to learn a trade is different than in proficiency to trying to access academic content. So I'm wondering if there is room to think about a different proficiency, a language proficiency as a foreign language proficiency, rather than a proficiency that measures the English that you know well enough to be able to access academic content, which is what the ELPT is designed to do.
Okay, anything else on that one?
Actually, I would I don't know if you covered it or not, but I would like to see the group make some reference to the Amir application and the AI opportunities. And I'm pretty sure that LDOE is going to have an AI presentation at August Bessie. So the more these work groups that speak to the AI opportunities, I think the more um, exposure we give to that topic, word it's going to get out better. People hear it more frequently or whatnot. So anything this group can bring to that conversation, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, group 4.
Okay, so we went through the recommendations and just have a few notes for each. So recommendation 1, on section where there's a mention of, I'm trying to find it, I think it was 3. So, recommendation 1, under A, effective programming, 3 deliverables. There was updated guidebooks, and I think, there were a couple of us at the district level and a couple of us non-district level. So our minds went, is it the general guidebooks from the LDOE? Is it the curriculum guidebooks that we're talking about? Because we had discussed like integrating L best practices into curriculum guidance that's provided to districts. So there was confusion around that term, guidebooks. And then in one of the areas, there was a mention, I think under 2, no, I think we discussed it under letter C, student monitoring system. There's what are we referring to when we say progress monitoring tools? I guess being clear or more guided. It was a very general term, and we weren't sure what was meant by that. Is it an assessment? Is it a measure? Is it guidance? And then for recommendation 2, where it's discussed the terminology reference for English learners, we had a couple of notes of the terminology of migrant versus immigrant, which we see used interchangeably, which is used differently when we're thinking about federal grants and programs. Dual language models, the term dual language is used interchangeably with immersion and just clarifying the different dual language models that are used in the state. Just because there's a lot of confusion and there's clear different, dual language, there's lots of sub definitions underneath that one term. And then the bilingual model, we see a lot of these terminologies in our allow plan specifically and in different things that we do. So just highlighting that there for clarity, immersion models, bilingual models. Recommendation 3, or develop and disseminate LDOE back to school plan relative to supporting English learners. That just, we started thinking about federal funding guidelines to support these back to schools. Specific examples provided possibly to districts on how to use overlapping funds, because there was family engagement was involved in that, and the more specific examples that can be provided would be helpful to those of us at the district level. Recommendation 5, explore development of micro-credential certification options for instructional coaches. What are the other micro-credentials that perhaps need to reference? Like there's a mentor teacher. We discussed the mentor teacher. Would this only apply to instructional coaches, or could it also apply to content teachers? Recommendation 6, which is explore development of peer tutor internships. Just what we said in our discussion of connecting those work experiences and internships to graduation options for students. Recommendation 11, examples of on-demand teacher training. What's written there sounded a lot similar to Acts 270. Is that, am I saying the right number?
Yeah.
270 as far as like the work that we're doing with literacy and math. Just, we want to make sure that we, how can districts take that on? I guess exactly what that would look like and clarify, which sort of brought us to our 45-minute mark. And and we didn't get to all the other recommendations, that there are lots of recommendations. Are there priorities that we can have, like the feasibility of doing it all? We're in the school district, so not a lot of things fall onto us, just making sure that we prioritize things and not develop maybe a phasing plan was discussed. So we just didn't even have a chance to read them all. We're like, whoa, we go all the way to 25. So, so those are the things that we discussed. Thank you.
And comments on group four's work? And I know, Alec, you want to, yeah.
So to Ms. Castillo's point, there's 25 of them, and you probably did not get to every single one of them in your group. So please feel free to take this with you and work through it. And possibly in the next 2 weeks prior to our meeting, if you could send back any notes that you have, that would be really beneficial going forward. And that would help us kind of put everything together. So I understand. I know it's a lot. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Today, I know we're a few minutes over. We started a few minutes late, so. I really appreciate all of your engagement and thinking through this. We got to talk about a really complex topic today, and then also be able to take a look at the recommendations as a whole. And so I really appreciate all of your time and your conversation and your brain power that you've contributed to us today. So if you think of anything that, like another topic that you feel like we're missing ahead of next meeting, let me know so we can add it to the agenda. Otherwise, we're going to plan to have our new recommendations from today added into this, and then maybe some additional information for each one, some direction and some additional content for each one, so we can get as close to a final product as possible for you all to see next time. And we'll try to send it out to you ahead of the meeting so that you have some time to look over it, and then you can come with discussion, conversation that we need for next time too. I'll ask Erin Landry too, if she can come and give us a little update on the adult ed LCTCS programs and what things are offered in different places, and what kinds of resources are available here or there. And we can talk about maybe recommendations for how to make more things available, more places as we might need them to be. So I'll see if she's willing to share some with us too. So, okay, anything else? Thank you all so much for your time, and I hope you have a really great rest of your day.